All right, welcome into another MLB draft team preview for the 2021 MLB draft. Today we're going to be highlighting the last team in the NL West before we move on to the AL Central. Today we're focusing on the San Diego Padres. And Tyler, the San Diego Padres are interesting because they've really kind of built a bit of a farm system dynasty, if you will, through international signings and through drafting of high school players. Last year, of course, they ended up with Robert Hassell III, who in a lot of people's minds was the best high school player available. CJ Abrams the year before that, who's now a top 25 prospect in every board. And then Ryan Weathers the year before that, who has turned into, already a valuable MLB adjacent piece, whether that be in long relief or in short starts. So I want to kind of throw it over to you. There's some really interesting depth in 2021 on the prep ranks, and I know that they picked 27th, so they're gonna have to wait a little while to get to their draft position. But sure seems like they're gonna have someone of their liking fall into their lap. What are you thinking?
So I kind of want to fit with their recent MO in terms of projectable prep lefties that they've gone after, because Mackenzie Gore started off the whole trend, and you had Ryan Weathers. You can even throw in Jagger Haynes from last draft. He wasn't a first rounder, but he's a projectable left-hander. Yeah, exactly. And they're all guys that they came into the draft throwing like 88, 91, and now they're, low mid 90s kind of guys. So Frank Mazzucato kind of fits that mold a bit. Preller has gone to the Northeast a bunch this spring, and we all know that. He's kind of popped up recently as a guy that really turned the corner. He's threw like 4 or 5 no-hitters in a row. Mainly been like 88, 91, top out 92. And his best breaking ball is the curveball. I've seen people throw 60 grades on it, and I personally agree with that. Do believe he has a changeup in there as well. But he's a guy that certainly would fit their MO in terms of just the projectable lefty that they would love in their system. You can also throw in Anthony Solometo as well. He's also a Northeast guy. He's had more velocity. He's more been like a 92, 95, and there's a bunch of funk in delivery. You've seen the kind of wind-up arm action that he has. So he's another guy. He's got a fastball, like I said, 92, 95, slider in there, and I think there's a changeup as well. So those are 2 options that I like personally that would fit their mold for the Padres.
Yeah, I think both of those make sense. I think for as much time as we've heard and have reported that AJ Preller has spent in front of Frank Mazzucato multiple games in the Northeast taking in his starts, he sure seems like a guy that is circled as a priority for the Padres. And I haven't heard a lot of helium with Mazzucato going before 27, so I think he's a very obvious name to watch for. And Solometo, another Northeast kid. As we said, Preller's been spending a lot of time up there, so we know he's taken in at least one of Solometo's games. But yeah, I think, if neither one of those guys necessarily fits the bill, I could certainly see them going a different route and going with another prep outfielder. I think Lonnie White makes a lot of sense. He's a big physical 3-sport, specimen that the Padres could probably turn into a top 100 prospect in no time. Big raw power, good ability to run, a better hit tool than I think he's given credit for. Huge batted ball data like we've talked about in some other streams. But another guy that I think we should bring up, and just because we haven't brought him up on a lot of these team previews, and maybe that's because he just doesn't fit into any of the boxes until then, or until here, is Joshua Baez. Dexter Southfield, corner outfielder. He's a center fielder right now, but I think we all agree there's probably a very little chance that he doesn't move into right field, where his arm projects very, very well. Might be the best raw power in the draft, especially at the top of the draft. There's some hit tool concerns, but the tools are loud. He's already comfortably a plus runner. Good defender, huge arm, 70 grade arm. And he's the type of clay that you could turn into a big contributor. He reminds me a little bit of Tommy Pham, just in how physical his play style is. So I think that's a name to watch out for. And then there are a couple of infielders that I'd be remiss not to bring up, just because knowing the Padres, they look for hit tool. I think Jackson Merrill makes some sense. I think Cooper Kinney makes some sense. Maybe this is the Maybe this is the ceiling for an Alex Mooney type out of Orchard, St. Mary's. So, yeah, a lot of different names that I could see the Padres going with here. I think you and I both kind of agree they're going to go prep, and that's just because that's their MO. But we'll see. If I were a betting man, I'd certainly put my money on Mazzucato. But let's just say, hypothetically, and I'm putting you on the spot here, what if the Padres were to go college? Is there a guy that you think kind of fits what the Padres have gone after? Maybe he's a green pitcher that still has some seasoning in front of him. Who would you point toward?
Ooh, that is a good question. Because really, there's not a lot of college lefties or in this area. Dunn Casey maybe makes some sense. He's a guy that we've seen. He shows off some really good pitchability. 88-91. There's the curveball in there. It's more of a mid-70s type curveball, but he reuses it really, really well. He's been a big performer at Ole Miss. He's a guy that could make some sense for the Padres here. That's just my take on it, though.
Yeah. The only guy that comes to mind for me, and I know this is maybe a little early, but Kai Bush out of St. Mary's. He's a big 6'6" lefty, 240 pounds, 4 pitches, fills up the zone. He's been up to 97. Maybe he's a sleeper to watch out for. But Tyler, I think you and I both agree the San Diego Padres likely going to go high school here. I would put a red line under Frank Mazzucato's name and Anthony Solometo and Lonnie White, Josh Baez, maybe Jay Allen. Those are guys that you kind of circle as potential fits as well. So that will do it. That's going to do it for the San Diego Padres. That's going to do it for the NL West. The draft at time of publish here is just 11 days away. So we are right here at the finish line. We're going to jump into the AL Central tomorrow, probably do a couple two-a-days towards the end of this week and early next week. We certainly appreciate you watching, and we will have another team preview for you shortly.